Good morning and welcome to Comeback Yoga's annual breakfast fundraiser. My name is Kelly Wolf and I'm the Executive Director of Comeback Yoga. For those of you who are new to us, Comeback Yoga is a Denver-based nonprofit providing free trauma-informed yoga to the military demographic, which includes veterans, active duty military, their friends and family, as well as their clinicians. Comeback Yoga also provides scholarships to veterans who wish to become yoga teachers themselves, and we also provide our teachers additional training in subjects such as post-traumatic stress, traumatic brain injury, and much more so that they have all the tools they need when they enter the classroom. Now, there's a lot I can say about 2020. Most of it would probably be censored by YouTube, so I'm going to skip all that and talk about the resiliency of Comeback Yoga in 2020 and the resiliency of our students. In March of 2020, Comeback Yoga pivoted immediately to providing live online classes to our community, and we even started new programs in 2020 like the Veteran Ambassador Program. I could go on forever about Comeback Yoga and 2020, but since Comeback Yoga has already lasted an eternity, I'm going to let someone else do it for me. Vlad Vasquez is a United States Army combat veteran and a Comeback Yoga teacher. He is profiled in this year's annual video, and I am so honored to introduce all of you to Vlad Vasquez.
I was born and raised in the Dominican Republic. I came to the United States when I was 14 years old. I moved to the city of New York. When 9/11 happened, I was willing to do anything to help. So I joined the Army and I trained with my unit for almost a year, and we were ready to deploy right about when the invasion to Iraq was going to start. So we were the first troops on the ground. Firefights every night all the way until we got to our first camp. That first year, it was pretty tough. We lost many soldiers. That really made an impact on me. I never really had to experience losing brothers. Seeing the true horror of war, picking up bodies and body parts, and me even participating in the event. Coming back from Iraq from my first tour, it was surreal. First of all, how did I made it through that whole year of war? Reintegrating myself back into society and the regular normal day of life in America, I don't think that was possible anymore. We only had a chance to come back, train for another 10, 12 months, and we went right back for the second tour. I never really had time to process nothing when I got out of the service. I found myself very lonely. I was just very depressed, so I started drinking heavily, and I tried to commit suicide. I had a gun, I put it in my mouth, and I pulled the trigger, but the gun never went off. I guess I was so drunk. That was my wake-up call. When I went to the VA, immediately I went in as a high-risk suicidal veteran. They put me in a program for 6 months where they were diagnosing my PTSD, and they found out that I had a traumatic brain injury. I tried a lot of therapy with the VA.
Some of the struggles that he dealt with was just being an angry person. He wasn't very social. He distanced himself from me. I was always trying to fix it. Nothing really helped. Nothing worked.
Until one day, I was sitting in one class at the VA, and the class was a mindfulness class. I remember that was my first encounter with meditation. It was amazing for me. It gave me a sense of peace that I needed. And then I found the physical practice of yoga.
Yoga has helped Vlad with lifestyle, with discipline. He wakes up every morning, he does yoga.
After I was feeling better every day and I was feeling the changes in myself, then I decided to share the practice. I met a teacher from Combat Yoga. She was like, would you like to teach for Combat Yoga? It's for veterans. And that's where the journey began. And then I started teaching around the Colorado Springs area. And I got the opportunity to start working at Fort Carson, which it was a dream come true for me because I was stationed there for 7-8 years. Combat Yoga, bringing veterans to teach veterans is a key element. It's the same language. So you become an example and a guide for a lot of soldiers that are looking for that, all for free. Combat Yoga has been doing excellent in these times. It's amazing how they have been able to get together, create online classes. We might not be there physically, but we are there online every day. And it's amazing because that wasn't happening a year ago. Combat Yoga is spreading. We're getting a lot of more teachers coming in, a lot of veterans that want to do the same things. This is a time to invest on those veterans and help them get where I am today. Every morning when I get up and I open my eyes and I decide to put this t-shirt on, is that melting of the warrior and now the new me, the yoga instructor. I can just feel the emotion, just feeling grateful for the opportunity. Open up your mind, open up your heart, and just try something new and see how it works, because you never know. It changed my life and I never knew about it. And it have changed a lot of other people's life. Supporting Combat Yoga is supporting your community. Supporting the wounded warriors that wanted to serve with the guns, but now they can't. So give you an opportunity to serve with your heart.
Thank you so much, Vlad and Melanie, for allowing us to share your story this year. And you guys, Vlad is right. Supporting Comeback Yoga is supporting your community, and we need your support this year. Donations made today are going to help sustain these programs through 2021 and beyond. During the entire program today, you're going to see two ways to give on your screen. You can call 720-259-4931, or you can go to comebackyoga.org/donate2020. This year, we are so lucky to have a $25,000 matching grant. This is a dollar-for-dollar matching grant up to $25,000, so you know that your hard-earned 2020 money is going to go even further for Comeback Yoga. This grant was given to Comeback Yoga in memory of Mr. Donald Prochnow. Mr. Prochnow was a Navy veteran who served in World War II. He was an ensign on a small ship slated to land on the Japanese mainland before their unconditional surrender in 1945. Mr. Prochnow stayed in touch with his shipmates until he was the last remaining survivor. Mr. Prochnow passed away 5 years ago, but he believed in providing services for veterans, and he believed in the mission of Comeback Yoga, and for that we are eternally grateful. Comeback Yoga would also like to thank his wife, Mrs. Esther Prochnow, as well as his sons Gene and Charles Prochnow for their continued support of Comeback Yoga. All right, you guys, let's get this party started. This year, our brain science speaker is Hillary Morris. Hillary is a state of Colorado licensed professional counselor. She's a national board certified counselor, and Hillary works with both active duty military and veterans to identify and overcome symptoms of trauma and post-traumatic stress. I adore her. I think you will as well. So please help me welcome Hillary Morris.
Many of our combat veterans come back with post-traumatic stress disorder. Now, post-traumatic stress disorder is a chronic condition that occurs after a prolonged stress response following exposure to emotionally traumatizing events. Symptoms of post-traumatic stress include nightmares, flashbacks, invasive memories, feelings of numbness, detachment, and overall hypervigilance. An emotionally traumatizing event occurs when we become overwhelmed past the point of what our nervous systems can normally handle. As a result, we become highly sensitive to evocative cues or triggers in our environment that mimic the initial trauma. Now, based on brain imaging studies, we know that veterans with combat trauma have a very different brain than veterans without it. Now, post-traumatic stress appears as heightened blood flow and heightened brain activity in the brain's default mode network, which includes the posterior cingulate regions, the frontal lobe, and the limbic center, which are all linked to processing emotion. Elevated blood flow in these regions can be linked to anxiety, panic, fear, and healing these areas of the brain requires both emotional therapies and also somatic therapies. Now, the body has a language of its own, and when we can bypass cortical processing and sink into the emotions and sink into the body, that is when the body is able to desensitize, reprocess, and clear these traumatic memories. By doing this, we can unpair a trigger with the conditioned body-based emotional response. For example, hearing a helicopter can send the veteran into a fight or flight conditioned response. And by sitting in this response and sitting with the emotional pain, that is how we begin to get control and eventually minimize that pain. The decision when we face our pain rather than run away from it becomes the moment of transformation. We show up for ourselves, sit with our pain, and use the body and breath to move through difficult emotions, and that is when healing happens. Now, trauma-informed yoga is a type of practice that understands how and where trauma is stored in the body. During this yoga practice, we learn to breathe into the movements. We learn to be with ourselves in our direct experience for that day, whatever that looks like. Good, bad, elation, joy, devastation, fear, loss. We learn it's okay to fall apart. We learn to fully embody the panic and fully connect with it while cultivating a calm body. And in doing so, we expand the capacity of the central nervous system. This focused breathing practice acts as a down regulator to relax the central nervous system. In doing so, we hold space for ourselves and our pain. We learn to stay versus running away, and we become empowered. And we know, based on research, that the regular practice of yoga is linked to an overall decreased activity in those brain's trauma regions. Now, Comeback Yoga provides a unique experience with their trauma-informed yoga offerings. They understand the science, the psychology, and the brain physiology of post-traumatic stress and how it appears in the body and brain. They incorporate this into every practice, and they provide the opportunity for these veterans to down-regulate their hyperactive nervous systems, their bodies, and their brains. They teach embodiment practices, and they teach pranayama breathing practices. They provide veterans with an integrative, holistic option for their therapies to augment their other traditional therapies that they're enrolled in, which becomes a breath of fresh air for all these veterans. Now, I've been partnering with Comeback Yoga for years, and by supporting them, we get science-based yoga practices into the hands of veterans, and that's when healing and transformation occurs. I've seen many of my clients reach a new level of embodiment, empowerment, and overall emotional control after doing these yoga practices. I stand behind them, I support their mission, and I invite you to support them as well. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Hillary. And now that we all have a better understanding of post-traumatic stress and the role that comeback yoga can play in processing that, I want to turn to our veteran speaker. Pat Hammond is a registered nurse and currently serves as the Veteran Service Officer in Eagle County, Colorado. She is a Vietnam veteran who served as a staff nurse at the 24th EVAC Hospital in Long Binh, Vietnam. She is a staunch veteran advocate and a woman that I admire very much. Pat comes to us this morning from Eagle County, so without further ado, Pat Hammond.
Good morning. It is such an honor to be speaking on behalf of this amazing organization, Comeback Yoga, founded by my dear friends Ned and Margot Timble. My husband and I were both in Vietnam in 1968-69, assigned to an Army hospital in Long Binh. Our hospital had 400 plus beds and 6 helipads, which were constantly busy. We specialized in brain and spinal injuries, but also cared for injuries and medical conditions of all types. I was a very young nurse, only 1.5 years out of nursing school, and had only been in the Army for 1 year. I was assigned to the emergency room triage area, and my husband-to-be was a very busy neurosurgeon. We all worked very long shifts and were pretty weary most of the time, but somehow found space for a bit of downtime in the Officers Club, a Quonset hut with a black light. My memory is that we worked so intensely and that we had very little time for reflection or to think about what we were seeing and experiencing. We were at our professional max, our skills tested constantly, and working to our best every minute with a team of medical personnel doing the same. When your shift ended, exhaustion hit hard and sleep came quickly. However, upon coming home to a country that did not understand what we had been through and were against what we had been doing was a tough pull for us and stopped us in our tracks. I think when I got spit on in the airport on my way home was the first time it really hit me, what I'd been living through for 365 days. Now, some 50 years later, we Vietnam veterans are still struggling with it. I have found over the years that volunteering and working with veteran groups has been my way through. To be able to share stories and help other veterans get on with their lives helped me to do so as well. My first job upon getting home was at the VA hospital in Washington, D.C. ICU. Not much of a break from what I'd been doing, but everything was a lot cleaner and sure smelled better. When my husband Bill was transferred to the Triple Army Hospital in Honolulu, I started volunteering at a vet center, where I realized the depth and the seriousness of our veteran issues. I also worked as a Red Cross volunteer nurse and met medevac planes coming in at Hickam Air Force Base and met all the Operation Baby Lift planes. But during all those years, when we were with friends in the community, we learned not to talk about Vietnam. The subject would abruptly quell the conversation or bring up very unkindly questions. So we just didn't speak about it and stuffed it down to that part of us that keeps dark things quiet. Years later, we quote-unquote retired to Colorado, where we have found joy and support with new friends and the amazing outdoor life that Colorado offers. It's difficult to live on a retired salary in Eagle County, and so I headed back to work, first guiding in the backcountry and then finding my way back to nursing with home care and hospice. My first experience of working with the dying patients had been in the expectant area of our emergency room in Vietnam, where those who were expected to expire quickly from their multiple wounds were cared for. I found hospice work rewarding and will be forever grateful for those experiences. Presently, I work as a Veteran Service Officer for Eagle County, doing veteran benefits for veterans and their families. I also facilitate activities. I work on health initiatives for veterans and community events to recognize them. I serve on a number of boards dealing with statewide veteran issues such as prevention of suicide, homelessness, substance abuse, and women veteran concerns. All of these years of work with fellow veterans has helped me to deal with my own memories, guilt, ghosts, and anxieties. But now, all these years later, 2 things stand out for me. One is my incredibly strong feeling of patriotism for our country and for all of our service personnel. I cry with the national anthem, and I have a tough time not falling apart when doing a color guard in parades, our local high school basketball games, and especially at veteran funerals. The other is how much trauma-informed yoga has helped me and my fellow veterans. We have a weekly class now in Edwards at our local community college of between 8 and 18 vets each session, including a few wives and widows. They range between 40 and 92 years old, and most of us do our yoga in a chair. But the subtle transformation and the growing peacefulness amongst our group has been profound. Through all these years and all the programs I have worked with, I have not experienced such amazing changes. Some of it is truly just the comradeship, the friendships, and the chat time afterwards over coffee. And some of it is just the reward of showing up regularly and feeling healthy. But there is much more that is difficult to measure and difficult to put into words. Hillary did it for you in scientific language and medical terms, but all I can share is the human side. The remarkable effects are palpable, recognizable, and real. I can speak to seeing the changes in the veterans involved and in myself. My own PTSD, which I've only acknowledged a few years ago, is now much quieter, much easier to manage, and my life is carrying on, working with veterans with a lift in my step and a much calmer look at the world. In these times of worldwide angst and worry, I suggest you all take a yoga class and help to support Comeback Yoga, which helps countless men and women veterans who love their country and have given their best for it. Thank you for your time.
Pat, thank you so much. What an inspiring presentation. Vlad and Hillary, thank you both very much. We enjoyed listening to you, and it's such a heartwarming story from everyone. If you've helped Comeback Yoga over the past year, you know who you are. Comeback thanks you very much. We also would like to thank the staff of Comeback Yoga, Scotty and Cole and Kelly Wolf. What a fantastic organization, and what a great job you're all doing. Also, very much thanks to the donors for this presentation, the Procknell family, Tim Walsh and his family, Joe Jaggers and his family. Without their help, we wouldn't be able to put on this presentation. Also, the Comeback Yoga teachers are just fantastic. There are many of them, and those of you that are teaching regularly, thank you so much for your effort, so much for your learning and what you've become in terms of Comeback Yoga teachers. Also, we have a nice board for Comeback Yoga, and those that are involved with the board are doing just a fantastic job. And so Phyllis Allen is our board chair this year, and she has just been knocking it out of the park. Phyllis, thank you so much. So I'll turn it over to Margot.
Well, I've gotten a message that thanks to your generosity and joining us for this program, we've made the match. So thank you. Fantastic news. So we're very grateful to our donors. A little bit about what this means to us. The backbone of any organization is like the spine. And when you come to a yoga class that Ned and I teach, or that one of our Comeback Yoga teachers teaches, you know there's a lot about spinal movement. The spine moves in many directions, and it's really a significant part of that body sensation that Hillary talked about. And she talked about how emotion reverberates in the body. Well, I think you've seen that this morning. You've seen some very emotional presentations, and you've seen this incredibly sparky person, Kelly Wolf, who makes it all come together for us. So if you felt moved by this morning, I want to just draw your attention to the screen. You can donate. You can donate online with your fingertips on your computer, comebackyoga.org/donate2020. Or if you like the connection with a human person, and we know yoga is about connection, 720-259-4931, and someone's going to pick up the phone and speak to you. So that might appeal to you more. Ned and I began this journey recognizing the difficulty that both our fathers had recovering from their experience in World War II. And they had very different experiences, and their life journeys were very different. But depression was part of it, and anxiety was part of their life. And we saw that there's this reverberation of tension, anxiety, trauma that many of us feel in our lives. And yoga is a way to address that. I have to say, one of the silver linings about COVID is that any of you, whether you served in the military or not, can go find a yoga class online. You can find it with Comeback Yoga, many other providers. It's free. You can bring it into your living room or your bathroom or wherever it is that you have space for a little quiet time. So don't be shy. The barriers of entry are very low right now, and that's an awesome thing. So if you've thought, maybe that yoga practice might be good for me, give it a try. Come join us. We'd be happy to have you. We're especially happy to have you if you have served in the military, you're serving now, you're a military spouse, your parents served in the military. This is where we focused Comeback Yoga's mission. So I draw your attention to the screen. You have an opportunity to donate today. This is the only fundraiser we do. We do this one time a year. And you, the donors, you're our backbone. You move in many directions. You come from many parts of the country and the world. You're our backbone. And we rely on you to help us maintain the scheduling, the planning, the relationships with so many different organizations that help us deliver these services to the population that we have targeted. I want to mention, we don't have any bricks and mortar. So there's no building. You don't come to Comeback Yoga at a particular studio in the Front Range or in Metro Denver. You come to Comeback Yoga online. It's either a YouTube class right now, you can chat with the other participants, or it might be a Zoom class, and we're in person in a few places. So we really are grateful for this ecosystem that makes it all happen. And the ecosystem, Ned referred to all the parts and pieces that support us, brought us here today to the studio of PBS 12. That's where we are. And you're part of the ecosystem as you donate whatever you can to help support this work going forward. I was really moved by Vlad. I was really informed by Hillary. And Ned and I have been neighbors with Pat Hammond for decades, and what she has to say and how she acknowledges the world of veterans and service is so moving to us and hopefully also to you. Please help us. You can see online how to donate, 720-259-4931 or comebackyoga.org/donate2020. We're grateful for you. We miss you all. We wish to see you in person. Thank you, thank you, thank you.